Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing another install video. It's going to be on the wheelie light. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you step by step how to install the 12 o'clock shadow, which is the wheelie light specifically designed for the Prebug and the Bugeye Zuma. And I'm going to be showing you on actually both bikes today too. So not just the Prebug, showing a little love to the Bugeye. Not a big Bugeye fan, but you know, a lot of you guys are, so I figured I'd make it available for you guys too. Once you unbox your wheelie light, this is what it's going to look like. On the left over here, we have the version for the Prebug, and on the right, we have the version for the Bugeye. And the only difference is the connectors. The Prebug, you need a 3-pin for the ignition, and the Bugeye, you need a 4-pin. These lights are just going to come on when you turn your ignition key on, and they're going to turn off when you turn it off. So that way you're not draining your battery or anything, and you don't have to wire up any auxiliary switches. Now, before we get to installing these, I want to talk about this, which is a 38mm insert for the Prebug. I don't think you'll really need it for the Bugeye. Most Bugeyes have 40mm forks, but if you're running some sort of aftermarket forks where you have 38mm, you'll need these ones. But basically all that this is an adapter. So you put it inside the bracket, that changes the inside diameter to 38mm, and you'll need this on Prebugs that have drum brakes or Prebugs that have the 3 bolt pattern discs on the front. The other Zuma 2s are all going to be 40mm forks, so you can toss this out. All you'll need is just the bracket. The actual inside diameter of this is 40mm, so it'll fit on those forks perfectly. But for those of you that have older Prebugs, you'll need this adapter right here, and that's going to come in every kit, whether you're getting the Prebug or the Bugeye. We are going to start by installing the first one on the Prebug, and as you can see, there's already one on here. Now, this is my first wheelie light that I made for this bike. This is the V1. Well, the final version of the V1. There's actually a lot of different iterations before I even got to this one, and I've ended up changing it even further from there. This is the new bracket. This is the one that's going to ship, and I just like this one a lot better. The install process is a lot easier on here, and that was one of the big things that I try to make sure with my products is I can install it as easy as possible. Basically, what I changed with this was I moved the light back a little bit, basically just moved all the dimensions around, made it look a little cleaner and thinner, but still strong enough that it's going to withstand everything. The biggest problem that I had with this one was you had to install this light separately after you put the bracket on, which I didn't love. As you can see, the light pretty much covers that bolt completely over there. And I didn't really love how chunky these bolts look down here too. So I ended up slimming that down, kind of pushing everything together as much as I could. This one actually had nuts on the back too. This one I decided to go with heat set inserts, so you don't need to worry about any nuts. You just screw the screws right in, and you can kind of see them in there. There's little inserts inside that it just threads into. So not going to worry about losing any nuts or anything like that. All you really need for this is an Allen wrench, and you can get pretty much everything done. First step to installing the wheelie light on the Prebug is going to be taking this front panel off. It's just 3 bolts on the front and 2 screws in the top corners on the back. So we'll start by doing that. Now, I don't have my headlights plugged in right now, but if you did have them on your bike, you would just unplug the 2 plugs that would be behind here. Now we can mount the bracket on the bike itself, and you're gonna have to figure out at this point what fork size you actually have. You can measure it, or you can just take your bracket, and if it moves back and forth and has some play, it's probably not the right size. So what you're gonna have to do is take your 38mm insert piece. You're gonna put it on the forks like this. Make sure your seam is towards the back, and basically slide it all the way to the boot on the drum brake version. If you have the 3-bolt rotor or the 4-bolt, you can move the bracket basically all the way to the bottom as far as you can, and you want it as low as you can because that reduces the shadow from the tire. And I specifically went with, well, I'll show you later in the video, but I specifically went with a narrow beam projector because the flood beams make a huge shadow, and unless you're running 2 lights on both sides, which is kind of hard if you have discs on the other side, you're just creating a big shadow on the left side of your bike. So this projector makes it narrow enough that there's no shadow from the tire, but also no matter what angle you're at for your wheelie, it still is producing light because it's such a narrow and high beam. Now we're going to slip the back side of the bracket on. Just go around the tire like this. Make sure your insert is closed as much as it can all the way around. Then we're going to take the other side of the bracket with the screws, pull it up like this, get your first screw in, tighten it down a little bit. We'll get the back screw. You want to make sure your light is at a 90-degree angle with your tire, so make sure it's straight, that way your beam isn't crooked when you're in the air. Then you can go ahead and tighten her down. Now we can take our wire and slip it in this gap right here, and you're going to take your wire, pull it basically so you can't really see it, it's on the back side of the fork, and we can zip tie it up. Now, any of you guys that have had the front panel of your Prebug open before, you're gonna notice that mine looks a little messy in here. I have a lot of extra wires in here because of my NeoPixel headlights and my tail light. It just requires a lot more. I have this whole control board here. Once you open yours up, if you have a normal bike, you're not gonna see all this junk in here. Basically, all you need to worry about is finding your ignition wires, which are gonna be a lot easier to see once you have a stock bike. So basically you're gonna unplug this 3-prong, and then all we do is we plug in the wires. And what this is doing is basically just jumping power off the ignition with switch 12 volts. So now the light is only gonna come on when the ignition is turned on. Then the rest of the wires here, you can kind of just bundle them up, zip tie them together, and put them in the side down here. You want to make sure though that when you have your wheels turned, you're not going to be stretching the wire out. So leave a good loop, I'd say probably about 8 to 10 inches long inside here, and just zip tie it to whatever you can that's sturdy, probably like something like this bracket. Now that we have all our wires neatly zip tied up, you can go ahead and turn it on. As you can see, the beam is nicely lined up with the tire. If it's not, while the beam's on, you can unloosen this and rotate it to where it's in line and parallel with the tire. You can see if I move the beam down here, they're both straight. Normally, I like having the light pretty much in line with the forks. If you're really getting far back, you can move it down like this a little bit. But that's a good starting point to have it basically in line like that. Now, all we have left to do is put the front panel on. All right, now we have the Prebug all back together. As you can see, the light is working. Now you can hop on the bike at night, go make sure your beam is at the proper height. You can adjust that as you like, but that's really all there is to the install on the Prebug. Now the Bugeye is basically the same exact thing. Take off this front panel, you mount the light on the forks, you run it up, zip tie your wires, and put it all back together. Now, since the install process for the Bugeye is so similar to the Prebug, I'm just gonna do a little install montage for this, and you guys can see how it goes. right, so there you have it. The install for the Bugeye is complete. Like I said, basically the same install process. The only difference with this is I zip tied the cable for it onto the Speedo cable, and it just runs through a little slot. You'll see where the Speedo cable goes. There's a hole in there, and the plugs go right through that. But other than that, basically the same install on both of these. Unfortunately, I can't really get a riding video in today because of the weather. This is what it looks like outside in New York right now, so obviously not great riding weather. But come summer, I'll definitely do a riding video so you guys can see the wheelie lights in action, probably just on the Prebug. I can't wheelie this bike. I know some people can wheelie these stock, but I just don't have enough skill on the Bugeye to be able to wheelie it. Prebug with the 70cc kit on there, I can wheelie this thing all day. So we'll do a riding video on this, showcasing the wheelie light and the headlights, and I'll probably just do a little off-road video on the headlights on this thing. If you guys want to buy these lights, I will leave a link in the description. They are available at zuma.com, and both of these were designed and made by me. If you guys enjoyed the video or found it helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because I'm going to be posting a lot more on this YouTube channel this year, and I'm going to be putting some stuff out that's just going to be limited quantity products, sharing those early on the YouTube channel. That way you guys can be the first to buy them if you're interested. But yeah, that's really it for this. I'll catch you guys in the next one.